I'm Jeff Burke, and I'm here to discuss the Ordinal-Aspectual-Modal system of my early Central Mountain languages. A number of people on the ZBB have asked about this topic, and I've resisted so far giving a definitive explanation, but I'm ready to give that today. The Central Mountain languages are among the original first 15 spoken language families in the associated mythology, or legendarium as Tolkien would have called it. And it's the only family that I've developed in great detail. The others are just sketched. The Central Mountain languages are polysynthetic, head marking, and incorporating. First slide, please. Now, when I speak of the early languages, that would be everything from Noyatoa on up through Holomo and Halpaquanak, and the reconstructed ancestor of those, Proto-Central Mountain, and then the internally reconstructed ancestor of that, pre-Proto-Central Mountain. The moods and aspects, etc., change in the later languages, but they are, for the most part, stable from the beginning through Noyatoa. The three daughters of Noyatoa change, but it's stable from there on up. The early Central Mountain languages don't mark tense. Rather, they mark what I call order, aspect, and mode. And they mark these obligatorily through fused infixes on the verb. And the order, the aspect, and the mode of the verb all combine to give you a general idea of a statement's place in the world. First slide. Next slide. Order refers to two broad inflectional paradigms called the manifest and the unmanifest. These, this distinction is somewhat similar to realis and irrealis moods, but somewhat different. I actually borrowed these from Benjamin Whorf's analysis of Hopi. The manifest includes all that is or has been accessible to the senses, roughly what we would call the past and present, and excluding anything in the future. The unmanifest order subsumes what is not or has not been accessible to the senses. Obviously, this means the future, but it's more than this. It also includes equally and indistinguishably with the future everything that we would call mental, all mental activity, mental events, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, desires, dreams, visions, things of that nature. I'm going to read for you the analysis that Whorf gave of the manifest and unmanifest in Hopi, which will make it a little bit more clearer, I think. This is quoting Whorf. The subjective or unmanifest realm, subjective from our viewpoint, but intensely real and quivering with life, power, and potency to the Hopi, embraces not only our future, much of which the Hopi regards as more or less predestined in essence, if not in exact form, but also all mentality, intellection, and emotion, and the essence and typical form of which is the striving of purposeful desire, intelligent in character toward manifestation, a manifestation which is much resisted and delayed, but in some form or other is inevitable. It is the realm of expectancy, of desire and purpose, of vitalizing life, of efficient causes, of thought thinking itself out from an inner realm, the Hopi heart, into manifestation. It is in a dynamic state, yet not a state of motion. It is not advancing toward us out of a future, but already with us in vital and mental form, and its dynamism is at work in the field of eventuating or manifesting, that is, evolving without motion from the subjective by degrees to a result which is the objective. Now, the aspects are going to be a little more familiar than that somewhat esoteric manifest, unmanifest distinction. There are three. There is the continuative, which I also at times have called the aorist, which implies that an action is ongoing, but without a reference to a beginning or an end, or even the implication of a beginning or end. Continuative action just is. A continuative action can be occurring in the present, or it can be expected to occur in the future. This kind of ambiguity is possible because of the lack of reference to beginning and end points. The imperfective also implies an ongoing action like the continuative, but it's specifically one that was begun at a definite point in the past. And of course, the perfective implies completed action. Now, the modes are only two, but they have more complex submodes. The first one is the indicative, which is for statements that I'm telling you this is the case, for example. And in the indicative mode, one of 5 levels of evidentiality is obligatorily marked, that being by first-hand experience, I saw this, I heard this, I felt this, by second-hand experience or testimony or hearsay, by deduction or implication from known facts, by assumption, guess, or speculation, or now the imperative mode divides into a number of submodes. The first one is the immediate imperative, which is we're most familiar with, as in, do something, as in, do it right now. There's also the delayed imperative, which is used for something like if someone leaves our house and we say, well, come again, we don't mean have them turn around and immediately come right back. It's something in the future. Now, the other two, the obligative and the hortative, are related to the imperatives, but different. The obligative is used for obligation, especially moral obligation, as in you ought to do this. The hortative deals more with suggesting and urging, as in, let's go out to eat somewhere. Now, next slide, please. Now, even though tense is not actually marked, there are some mode and aspect combinations that can roughly match up to certain English tenses, and these are listed up here. But there are some booby traps with this. For example, the mental, especially with regards to mental activity. For example, a mental activity or event would also be expressed in the same way that the future is, as in unmanifest continuative. Because a mental activity is not manifest, and it could also said to be ongoing. You can't rely on those tense matchups too strictly, or you'll run into trouble. That's all that I have. Any questions? Yes, John?
It sounds like maybe the order inflection you got might make distinctions that in other languages would be made lexically. Like, for instance, you might, if I understand it right, you might have a verb that in the manifest mode means, I'm not sure what, and the unmanifest mode means to think or to feel. And what would that, a verb meaning that in the unmanifest mean in the manifest mode?
Such a verb like that would probably never be used in the manifest. You could not have a manifest thinking. If something becomes manifest, it's real. It's no longer merely a thought. Any verb that would refer to pure mental activity would always have to be manifest. Skylar?
In terms of the unmanifest, how does that relate with third person and second person? Does that, like, what's the way you would say it's your unmanifest view of things versus his unmanifest view of things versus my unmanifest view that she thinks that, or something like that?
Oh, how would you say something along the lines of,
like,
I believe that she believes?
Yeah.
That entire construction would be unmanifest, but I'm not quite sure I understand your question.
I guess the question is unmanifest just a state of the thing, or is there any way to direct whose unmanifest view it is?
No, it's a general category. The thinking of, any person or animal, spirit, what have you. David?
The question just raised a question in my mind. Is there a sequence of tenses kind of thing? So I believe. So I might have an unmanifest thought about an activity which might be manifest. Would the unmanifestness penetrate? Or, so I believe that the food will be ready at noon for us to eat.
Or the food is ready.
One for us to eat. I believe the food is ready. Would I say I unmanifestly believe
the belief verb would be unmanifest, and given the future quality of what you were believing, you believe that the food will be ready.
Oh, well, because I believe that the food is ready. I
believe that the food is ready now. In that case, the verb meaning believe would be in the unmanifest. The other one, however, would be manifest.
Okay.
Do you use unmanifest for contrary to fact statements, such as if we were in Canada, we would be a lot colder?
For counterfactuals?
Counterfactuals, are those unmanifest?
Yes.
Could you use something figuratively? For example, if I were to say, I manifestly think, could I be saying that I'm sculpting or painting, something that is literally a visual and manifest thought or emotion?
If you're sculpting, if you're actually doing something, that's manifest. If you're bringing it, there's a very hard distinction between what's in here and what's out there. It almost would lead to philosophical syllogism in the end.
So I guess in that case I would be manifestly expressing my unmanifest thought.
Yeah, you would be bringing into the manifest realm your inner vision for this sculpture, which is what I was talking about what Worf was talking about in the quote that I used. That there's always this movement from the unmanifest outward to the manifest, which is the world.
Apparently we're out of time, but
You're gonna have to save it for later.
sorry.